signaling plans to investigate ICE and enact changes. We'll discuss this and more of today's top headlines. I'm Ernie Manouse.
And I'm HPM's Michael Adkison. What does it take to protect one of Houston's most important Black historic communities while still allowing it to grow? Council member Joe Panzarella is here with answers.
Plus, what happens when the world's most popular game becomes a global celebration of inclusion? The Genuine Cup is bringing more than 1,000 athletes to Houston this week to show us.
And as always, we want to hear from you, so give us a call or text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. There was a pause in attacks between the United States and Iran over the weekend. The U.S. says the halt is giving space for potential negotiations. Here's NPR's Jane Araf.
The U.S. ambassador to the UN, Mike Waltz, told NBC the pause is meant to give, quote, talks some space. Iran was a bit more reticent. Foreign Ministry spokesman Ismail Baghai said mediators were exchanging messages, but there were no negotiations with the U.S. going on, and Iran had not requested a return to talks. And while Iran has paused attacks in Jordan and the Gulf, most of them aimed at U.S. bases, its Yemeni allies have not. Yemen's Houthi rebels said they struck Saudi oil assets over the weekend to reinforce their control over a second shipping lane, Bab el-Mandeb. Jane Araf, NPR News, Amman.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu plans to visit with President Trump tomorrow in Washington. He's expected to urge the U.S. to continue its military campaign against Iran. But President Trump's attempting to bring U.S. hostilities with Iran to an end at a time when he's facing low public approval ratings over the war, gas prices, and his overall handling of the U.S. economy, according to polls. Several shooting victims have been or are being released from the hospital today following a mass shooting at a food festival in Seattle, Washington yesterday. 3 people were killed. Police say one person was arrested, but a second person may also be involved. Casey Martin with member station KUOW is following the investigation into the shooting near the Space Needle.
Local police said they're getting help from the State Patrol and also the FBI. The park is closed and will be for a while, they said. And now police need the public's help for video, as there were no surveillance cameras right where the shooting happened. So that will be an ongoing conversation about public safety here.
That's Casey Martin reporting. The Gordie Howe International Bridge between Detroit and Windsor in Ontario, Canada, is reopening today. As Alex McLennan of member station WDET tells us, it comes amid political tension between Canada and the U.S.
U.S. officials were not invited to a ribbon-cutting ceremony for the span held in Ontario after Donald Trump placed 50% tariffs on Canada. Still, Canadian officials are highlighting the Gordie Howe Bridge as a testament to the relationship between the two countries. Mark Wiseman is Canada's ambassador to the U.S.
Where we stand today is truly one region. It is a place of two nations with a shared community.
The new span will give drivers crossing the Detroit River an alternative to the existing Ambassador Bridge, which has been the corridor's only option for commercial truck drivers for nearly a century. For NPR News, I'm Alex McLennan in Detroit.
U.S. stocks mixed with the Dow up 123 now, and the NASDAQ is down more than 100 points. You're listening to NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Shelby Rose. Katy ISD is putting strict limits on its use of artificial intelligence in the classroom for this upcoming school year. News 88.7's Bianca Seward says the decision to scale back AI comes amid concern around the country over the technology's benefits.
Starting in August, Katy Public Schools will ban generative AI chat tools in kindergarten through 6th grade classrooms and limit its use for students in middle and high school. Here's Kat Cantu, a Katy ISD parent and member of the Katy chapter for School Beyond Screens, a group advocating for stronger safeguards around technology in the classroom.
Our community is not asking Katy ISD to choose between innovation and tradition, but something much simpler: intentional use, thoughtful guardrails, consistent expectations across all campuses.
The move comes as Houston ISD has embraced AI and moved to transform 9 schools into, quote, future 2 schools where students spend the afternoons preparing for a world with artificial intelligence. I'm Bianca Seward, News 88.7.
And a new park honoring the history of enslaved people was dedicated over the weekend in Fort Bend County. Freedom Tree Park in Missouri City was built next to the nearly 200-year-old oak tree on the former Palmer plantation where enslaved people first learned of their freedom. Dexter Hippolyte attended the ribbon-cutting ceremony with his kids.
So even when we was riding the bike to the park, we could hear the chanting and the crowd cheering. And he was like, "Let's speed up, Daddy, we're missing it." And I'm like, "No, we're good. And there he goes, he passed me, but we made it and we're playing, so it's fun.
And the park also has a pavilion, playground, and art sculptures. Plus, a Baytown police officer is being investigated for potential misuse of flock cameras. That is the automatic license plate reader network that are motion activated. The controversial cameras are also in Houston and around Harris County. Now, limited details have been provided. Baytown Police Chief John Stringer says that this is an internal investigation as well as criminal, and he's brought in the Harris County District Attorney's Office in to help. It's 89 degrees right now on the University of Houston campus. I'm Shelby Rose, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from DuckDuckGo, a private search engine and browser. DuckDuckGo believes AI should be optional and private. Now with Duck.ai, users can chat privately with AI. Learn more at Duck.ai. This is NPR.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston.
Hello, Houston. Ernie Manouse with you on this fine Monday as we begin a new week of programs. And of course, since it's Monday, it could mean only one thing. Mondays with Michael. Michael Adkison is sitting in with me again today in the guest host chair. Hello there, Michael.
Hello, Ernie. That's the only thing it could mean. There's nothing else that happens on Mondays. No, it's just Mondays with Mike. I'm currently looking at a photo of the band Flock of Seagulls because before we went on the air, Ernie told me my hair reflected one of the band members. I don't know any of these people's names. Oh, is he the lead singer?
I
don't know Flock of Seagulls.
Blonde
I don't
kind of
yeah, and it's kind of he looks like the devil with his hair.
Yeah. That's kind of what
that's
your
what I
hair's
look like.
doing for me today. And I, of all people, to mock how someone's hair looks on our live stream.
You always look good.
We bring up the live stream to remind you, we stream every day live on YouTube. You can watch us, see our guests, see the conversation, see what goes on when we go into break.
See my hair.
See Michael's hair. But there's also a very active chat group that happens there, too. Those are our YouTubers, and I always say you're only getting half the show if all you do is listen on the radio. So if you can, shift on over to YouTube and watch us live, or go to HoustonPublicMedia.org and click that purple box that tells you watch us live.
Watch us live. And if you're not watching the live stream, Ernie and I poke each other frequently. We're always just jabbing at each other. There's so much physical comedy happening on the live stream that you're missing out on if you're only listening on the radio. That's not true. That's never happened.
I will say, though, when I know it's Mondays and I know you're going to be here with me, I know we're going to have a fun time.
We do always have a fun time. I feel like we always have lively conversations, and we always, like bragging about myself, we have lively conversations, but I also feel like we both are so involved in the news and the production of the news department here that we just are so informed and educated. I feel like I'm sounding bad about other people, and that's not what I'm getting at. But we come from such different backgrounds that I feel like the conversations that we always have are so nuanced and so, seeing all sides and all perspectives that I feel like is really valuable.
We live in an interesting time where the news is very fascinating.
Yes.
The stories in a lot of ways are repetitive because we've lived this experience over. But today there's this interesting new group of characters trying to live through it. And sitting in the news, we get the opportunity to look at it from multiple sides, see more, get a more nuanced view of who these characters are in this crazy world that surrounds us. And like you said, we come from different perspectives. So it's really interesting when we get together on Monday. It's like, oh my God, did you hear this over the weekend? Did you see that over the weekend? Did you watch the White House Correspondents' Dinner?
Right.
Things like that.
Yeah.
And it's made for interesting chatter, but it's always a joy to have you here with me in the studio doing the show.
Yeah, and talking about the characters, I have a fun aside, which is that I love the history of journalism, and
I lived it.
And you lived through the history of journalism. You've been there for many decades, Ernie. No, no, and I loved the way that journalism has evolved, and when new things have been tried. And so I'm a big fan of the era of new journalism, is what it's called, which was the 1960s and 70s when there was more feature reporting. It was more the reporter themselves became a character in the reporting. You tell a story rather, which brings me to my next point, which was when I was with my family. I was with my family this weekend, and we played trivia, which we rarely do, but we were just reading off of little cards. And here's a trivia question for you. Okay. What form of journalism also shares its name with a Muppet? The look in your face.
Gonzo?
It is Gonzo. Gonzo.
Bing, 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 bing.
Gonzo journalism was Hunter S. Thompson and Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail and all that.
I was quickly running through every Muppet, and I was like, Piggy,
Miss Piggy?
No. Kermit, no. Animal? That could work.
That's funny. I like that of not thinking of different forms of journalism, but just working your way backwards on the Muppets.
Tells you about my education at Loyola University, Chicago, where they gave me these degrees that I carry so proudly today.
There you go.
We're carrying a lot today. We got a lot to talk about on today's show.
I know we don't have any Muppets, so
no
Muppets, but we do have Councilmember Joe Panzarella, who's going to talk a little bit about what he wants to see come out of Freedman Town and that community and the growth that he wants to see. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, as well as the Genuine Cup. We're going to run through what that's going to look like here in Houston, and many other important topics like FIFA. I know you're probably sick and tired of hearing us talk about FIFA, but there's still so much to unpack about what the tournament has.
About that is that we're taking it to a different level. It's that whole soft democracy or soft diplomacy.
Yes.
And how an event like FIFA, how it really works on the world stage and what it does for host countries. I'm kind of fascinated about that topic. And also when it comes to vets.
Yeah.
And we often support our vets, we're proud of our vets, but when they come home, do we take care of our vets? One organization right here in Houston is working to make sure that they are getting what they need now that they're home. So all that's coming up on the show today. But as always, we got to start with the news.
Got to start with the news. Democratic members of Congress are signaling that they plan to investigate ICE and enact changes to the program if they regain control of Congress this fall. Many Democrats held a forum here in Houston on Friday for a remote hearing out in the field to gather testimony on the fatal shooting of Lorenzo Salgado Araujo, who was killed by ICE agents earlier this month in the East End neighborhood. U.S. Representative Christian Menefee, for example, the Democrat from Houston, offered some of the strongest condemnation of ICE, and he said that he wants the program to change if Democrats take control after November's midterm elections. And he said that one of the first orders of business for that process, if Democrats regain control, is an investigation into what happened leading up to the shooting of Salgado Araujo and others, including in Minneapolis, at the hands of ICE agents since Donald Trump returned to the White House. What are your thoughts? Do Democrats have a good grip on the situation, or are they still being shut out of the information that they need by the federal government? Let us know what you think. Give us a call or text 713-440-8870. Join the conversation and let us know what you think in the aftermath. Ernie and I were talking. It's kind of crazy to think it's been 3 weeks since this shooting happened, that it feels like it was still just yesterday that we were reeling from all this and understanding what happened and getting our boots on the ground and processing through all of this.
I'm going to say the one thing that frustrates me in this story, though, is Democrats saying, if we get control of the House or the Senate, then we're going to do this and this. Do it now.
Right.
I don't care. It's very hard. Get the other party then, if you want to make these changes, get the other party on the record saying, no, we're not going to do this. You know, really drill into it, because popular support is behind ICE reform. Popular support is behind, yes, there is a concern with immigration and immigration policy today, and that needs to be looked at. But the behavior that's happening on the streets in major cities across the country is inexcusable. And to get politicians to come down on the side of, yes, we support that behavior, you're not going to find. You're going to get elected officials who are going to say, yes, we agree with reforms. Yes, we agree that there's a problem. Yes, we should get rid of the worst, as Donald Trump had originally promised. But what's happening today on the streets in America is not what anyone, I don't believe, voted for, or very few voted for this way of approaching it. So for Menefee, for Sylvia Garcia, for other folks that are currently in, and I know Sylvia Garcia's already pushed the program through and she's trying this stuff too. Let's do it. Let's go full hog on it and say enough. How many of your fellow citizens or fellow community members who work hard and try and live the American dream and give back in taxes and productivity to our communities, do we have to see shot down in the streets?
Yeah.
It's just without due process, without any of the safeguards we have put in place as a nation. That's what upsets me.
And I think that you always hear on Twitter that Democrats love to find a way to shoot themselves in the foot, one way or the other.
Yep.
And so I think to your point, this attitude of, well, once we get power back, then we'll start, really digging into it. It's really hedging your bets there that this is going to happen. And obviously I know the polling shows that that's the direction that it's going in, but you never know. You never know. And so to hedge your bets and say, well, once we get back into the power, that's when the work starts. And do I think that that's what Christian Menefee, Sylvia Garcia, Al Green are saying? Not necessarily, but it is that attitude of, well, our hands are tied, We'll do what we can.
Tied. Be obstructionists. Fight it if you agree.
And that, I think this is a synecdoche, I'll use a $3 word, of the greater conversation about what should Democrats be doing, because post Donald Trump, you've seen Republicans play politics in a way that's never been played before, and the way that they approach it and the way that they approach these issues and rally their voters around these issues is not something Democrats really, they don't want to play, they don't want to get their hands dirty like this. And I think I've mentioned it before with Gavin Newsom that, he's trying to be the Donald Trump of the left, and is that going to work for him essentially?
Well, honor the legacy or celebrate the life of Mitch McConnell and play by every rule you can get a hold of, whether he's dead, alive, or somewhere in between. Do the things he did. You say Donald Trump, but Mitch McConnell was playing these games.
Yeah.
And he knew when they wouldn't
Merrick
approve
Garland.
Merrick Garland, right. It's like, okay. And then they have no problem switching the rules when they're in power. So Democrats take a page from that book. I often say, and you may not hear it on air because it may be after an interview, but whenever we have Democratic politicians here, and I would say the same to Republicans, they just come less frequently to the show. When you leave, go back to Washington and go out to dinner with somebody on the other side of the aisle. Build those relationships. Everything is built on human interaction. They get out into by the podiums and people talk party lines. Build relationships under the scenes and make things work. Even in something like this station, we have relationships with people in different departments, and we work together to make things happen that may not be what you see on the surface, but there's all that underwork. Please work harder to build bridges between the parties, and on the human nature, a human level, I think more can get accomplished.
I like the implication that just as Republicans and Democrats are opposed to one another, like the divisions within Houston public media are opposed to one another.
Okay, sometimes we got to make points quickly, and we don't always think them all the way through, but you know what I'm saying. In your own work, you know that two departments may have problems, but if you start working with people within those departments, you build relationships and you end up helping each other. And I'm sure there are lots of those in Washington, but I want to see more of them. I want to see a functioning government. I want to see people come and get. Now, some may argue it is happening now because the bill the president was trying to just get through, that with the Save America Act in it, has been stalled and stopped. And it's like because people are finally coming together and working on this. But it's just an interesting time.
No, and to your point, I couldn't Google this fast enough. I was going to bring up that I think there's an incentive for the bases of parties to get mad at their elected officials when they work with the other side.
Right.
That goes both ways. That I think of, Tony Gonzalez of San Antonio is caught up in other controversies right now, setting those aside. He was censured by his party for working on the bipartisan gun reform legislation after Uvalde. Yeah. Yes, I know that there's the controversies that he's currently in, and that's resulted in him stepping down from office. I'm setting those aside because his party censured him purely just for that, for working with Democrats on gun reform legislation. You also see that, I don't know to the point of censuring, but certainly you see among certain Democrats a frustration when they're willing. maybe this is a bad example. I think with Gretchen Whitmer when she worked with Trump in that one deal, and she had to cover her face in the Oval Office because
she wouldn't be in the photos.
Because she didn't want anybody to know that she was working it because she knew people were going to get mad at her. It is this sort of like, do we want bipartisanship? Does that feel like you're, coming with your tail tucked in between your legs and you're saying, I give up. I can't stand on what I believe in, so I got to work with those guys. I don't know. I think it's more nuanced than so black and white as that.
What bothers me more in that story is thinking that holding a folder in front of your face is going to hide the fact you're in the Oval Office.
Who is that?
Oh my God, how would we ever know? Anyway, we do want to know what you think about this topic. Give us a call, 713-440-8870. I got another one for you, though. Here's another news story that's a little closer to home.
Love it.
Over at KDISD, they're putting new limits on how students use artificial intelligence in the classroom. Under proposed guidelines presented at the school board, I guess it was last week, generative AI chat tools would be banned for students in kindergarten through 6th grade, with gradual introductions beginning in 7th grade. District officials say this is not a total ban on AI, and learning programs already used for reading instruction will remain in place. The move reflects a broader debate nationwide over balancing AI's educational benefits with concerns about how the technology is used by students. What do you think about AI in the classroom? Should it be used in elementary schools? Call or text 713-440-8870.
My thinking, I know we're talking about KDISD, and I'm going to compare it to Houston ISD. I'm not our education reporter, nor do I have children in the education system, so pardon me if I'm just very ignorant on the subject. But I hear what HISD is doing with the AI integrated classrooms, and they make a note of saying we're not using artificial intelligence to replace teachers. We're not replacing the curriculum with AI. We are figuring out what a world with AI looks like for how children learn and how we integrate those two. And I hear that, and again, maybe the nuts and bolts of it are something that I would take issue with it. But on the surface, I don't think that's a bad idea, because it's the same argument that my generation was making when we said we all have spell check. Why do I need to learn how to spell words correctly? That being said, I'm a stickler for making sure words are spelled correctly.
And I'm the world's worst speller. Thank you, spell check.
Or calculators to not learn math. That's one that I'm less concerned about, because we do. I hate math, and we have calculators. And there you go. Ernie loves math. We're balance each other out. Yin and yang.
We're the odd couple of radio.
But it is like this idea of like, we're kids are going to grow up in a world with artificial intelligence. Maybe there are better things we could spend time learning on now that we know you can find out information so quickly. Civic learning on me.
Thank you.
Spend time learning on. Spend time learning. Spend time on.
There you go.
I just combined
My argument is I am all for learning how to use the tools that are in our world. And there's new technology coming at us all the time. Same thing with censorship. Learn how to identify what you're seeing and how to understand it, as opposed to just banning it. I'm just concerned that by 6th grade, kids are already using AI and all of this stuff in their own private lives. I think that's too late. I think, if you want to ban it for the first couple of years, fine, but they're already learning it because it's on all their phones. And by 6th grade, what is that, 12 years old, 11 years old? Mm-hmm. You already got your phone. You're already playing games. You're already texting with friends. You're already interacting with all of that stuff. AI is there. It's a part of their lives now. To pretend you can say, well, we're not using it, they're using it. Be aware. Teach them how to use it responsibly. I would say starting at a younger age. Understand what it does and what it doesn't do. Understand how it can help and benefit. Think of it as seasoning on food. Learn how to season it correctly. Don't outlaw the seasoning.
There you go. Outlawing seasoning. Never heard that before. And to that point, I know I've talked about this before. Maybe it's part of the bigger conversation about screens in kids and access to the internet in kids with The Anxious Generation and Jonathan Haidt's novel, or not novel, sociological work, talking about what screens do to kids. Perhaps this is just a bigger part of that conversation.
Right. Understand what the technology is coming. You're not going to stop it. So learn how to harness it, learn how to use it, and benefit from it. I'm a huge proponent of using AI to help sort through the clutter of life.
Yeah.
And that's what I see it as a good practical help for. We may be talking about a topic, and I quickly need to find out what are the issues on it, who's saying what on it, and it will run me a report quickly, and I can look at it. Do I take it as gospel truth? Never. but do I understand what it's pulling for me and I know how it works? Then friends of mine are taking actually these classes now in AI development, and it's fascinating how much more to this that I have not a clue about.
I know, complicated.
713-440-8870. What do you think? Should they be outlawing AI until 6th grade, or is that too late? Call and let us know. Something that it's not too late for, it is going to be our newest city council member. Joe Panzarella is going to be joining us to talk about Freedman Town right after this break. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7.
Meet Dio Choco. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. This is his story. Visit ridemetro.org/Choco to find out where is Choco.
That was not at all how they are with each other.
More next time in Here and Now.
It's coming up today at 1 o'clock.
I'm Stephen Dubner. On the next Freakonomics Radio.
It never occurred to me that television wouldn't work. Something just seemed to happen. I had no confidence that it was going to go big. Go big. When a master uses the English language, it's a thrill, isn't it? Go big.
The legendary talk show host Dick Cavett. That's next time on Freakonomics Radio.
You can listen to Freakonomics tonight at 10 p.m.
When President Trump announced an anti-crime task force in Memphis last fall, federal and local officials never mentioned immigration enforcement as a goal. But the first few months shocked the community.
It was very evident that this was an immigration operation at its core.
Trump says he wants to replicate the Memphis task force elsewhere. I'm Elsa Chang. That's on All Things Considered from NPR News.
It's on today at 3 o'clock.
Houston Public Media provides a free, essential, and trusted public service to everyone in Southeast Texas. The generosity of our Affinity Council Committee enables us to identify new audiences and new opportunities to bring inspiration, insight, and connection through public media. Sylvia Wolf, Norman Wong, Sally Worthington, Keith Wright, Francine Young, and Kenneth Jones. Thank you.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manouse and guest host Michael Adkison.
Freedman Town has long been one of Houston's most historic communities, but it's also an area that's faced years of ongoing challenges. Now, newly elected District C Councilman Joe Panzarella is sharing his vision for Freedman Town's future with a focus on balancing growth and preserving its history while simultaneously giving residents a stronger voice. Joining us now to discuss his vision and so much more, Councilmember Joe Panzarella. Welcome back to the show, Joe.
Thanks for having me. Good
Joe,
morning.
I should call it Councilmember. I'm sorry.
Joe works too.
Joe does work too. You built a very big campaign of making people feel very connected with you. So it is hard to carry the title through when we all know you as, hey, that's Joe. He stands for our community. Speaking of our community, I live in Freedman's Town. I've seen a lot of attempts at doing things in that area because it's a historic district. It's been given that designation. But a lot of it feels like in disrepair. A lot of it doesn't sparkle and shine like you would want for something that would draw people in to see it. I guess a lot of the development is currently going on, and that's why it's heading towards its bright future. Your thoughts on what's currently happening in Freedman's Town and where growth needs to happen there?
Yeah. Well, I should start with, we just celebrated a big milestone. The African American Research Center at the Gregory Lincoln School just celebrated 100 years a couple weeks back in July, which was really exciting and a testament to the fact that communities can go through years of struggle and strife, but then find ways to come back together and to find the resources to preserve what's special to those communities. And I think the African American Research Center is one of the best examples of that. Mm-hmm. Another example that we could talk more about in a second is the Rebirth in Action project, which is a great collaboration between the Freedmanstown Conservancy, the Mount Horeb Missionary Baptist Church, the Contemporary Arts Museum, and all kinds of amazing folks there. But I think, to kind of tie a bow on it, what we've seen over the past decades is an intentional neglect of a black and brown neighborhood like Freedman Town, and finally a turning of an emphasis and a desire to provide resources to a community like Freedman Town that has been here for over 100 years.
When you talk about neglect, what I would see, and it may also fall into that category, is total wiping it out. Yeah. As developers came in, I mean, I live in one of the tin townhouses in there, so I've seen them just spreading. And if something hasn't or hadn't happened, all of that would be gone. As developers see it as prime property. It's right outside of downtown. They want that space. So how do you balance, though, this birth and growth of a city in a neighborhood that's right there at downtown, but also preserving what needs to be saved?
Yeah. It's continuing to bring in voices of the legacy residents. And I want to shout out to the religious community in Freedman Town. There was originally over 27 churches in Freedman Town. Throughout the years of gentrification, now it's down to 7, but those 7 are still incredibly powerful and they mean a lot to the community members. And even though certain individuals have moved out of Freedman Town, they still come every Sunday to the community to go to church. And to go back to Rebirth in Action, that is a project that is hoping to develop and design a space for those residents that no longer live in the community, but to have a space to stay around after Sunday Mass or Sunday service. But, it's also speaking with local activists like Sharonda Johnson with the Freedman Town Association, who has been such a strong voice in Freedman Town for decades. And when we look at different design codes and we look at bringing in outside funding to develop things in the community, making sure that they have a chance to speak up and have their own emphasis there.
Can you have development and preservation at the same time?
You can. It is possible, but it's difficult. And I think it means building and developing with intention. And so if you have a lot of really valuable downtown real estate like Freedman's Town, and you just let the free market run with it, you're going to get $1 million townhomes. You're going to get these, units that are priced out for a lot of Houstonians, frankly. What I like to see is when we have the TERS at the Fourth Ward TERS, using an entity like that owns a lot of lots in Freedman's Town to actually build affordable, sustainable, long-term housing that allows individuals to stay in the neighborhood, to not get priced out by property taxes. But it really does involve building with intention and making sure that the government has a say in that.
When you talk about building with intention, the first thing I think, though, is the lack of zoning. Is that part of the problem there? Because you can have great intentions, but because there's no zoning, nothing is restricted.
I don't know if it's lack of zoning in this space. I think a lot of times it's just the value of land in downtown now has become so expensive that the only project that'll pencil in this market is $1 million townhome. And so you need to be able to bring in other partners like the TERS that owns the land, and maybe the Community Land Trust or the Texas Land Bank to keep the land in a sustainably affordable place long term, to be able to build a project that is actually affordable long term. Because in the current market, it's just not possible. And I also want to plug parking reform in this scenario. Right now, with any new development, the city mandates that you have to build a certain amount of parking. And so for us to be able to remove that parking minimum, which I just saw in the Houston Chronicle, they did a big op-ed about it, it allows us to reduce the development costs for developers to build more mixed-use affordable housing that's accessible to everyone.
So talking about Freedman's Town, obviously there are certain restrictions in place with it being a historical district that would not be in place, anywhere else. But we were talking a little bit about the Garden Oaks Theater, and I can't help but think of how that has unfolded. And obviously the city has helped coordinate things to make sure that they do what they can to keep that preserved and keep this historic building in place. Mm-hmm. What is within your control and what isn't within your control when it comes to, as Ernie was saying, developing while still maintaining the history of this region?
Yeah. The unfortunate thing is that a lot of times, a lot of it is not in our control. And I think we're seeing this with the proliferation of gas stations all over the city, and that's a big hubbub right now. And unfortunately, the city can't just put a big X mark on all future gas stations. But a lot of times what we can control as elected leaders is being a connector. And I want to give a shout out to Councilmember Sally Alcorn, who I know she was a big help with saving the Garden Oaks Theater and connecting the activists that are trying to save and preserve this theater with different real estate developers and potentially with different funding sources to be able to raise the money to actually save that theater. So a lot of times it's when we're meeting at city council regularly, when we're out in the community meeting folks, it's really being big listeners and then connecting the right folks, be it developers, construction folks, or just the money to actually build the projects that we want to see in Houston.
I want to go back to what you just said about gas stations. And a couple blocks from where we live, they just built an Izzy Mart there. And I had a neighbor that was very upset about that coming in because he thought it's going to bring homeless people, it's going to bring beggars. Now, I have seen the total opposite. And I don't know what Izzy Mart does, but I don't ever see a single homeless person there. The other gas stations in downtown always had them all around. So is it intention of property owners to be able to maintain these areas and to patrol for that? And not that you should be moving homeless people on, because there needs to be a solution for that problem too. But we think of certain things as being problematic where in reality they may not be. They may do the opposite.
Sure. You know, I can't say for that specific gas station. What I will just say is that I think certain neighborhoods currently are going through different levels of homelessness issues. And a good example is there's the gas station and the Randalls in Midtown there. And Midtown already just had a lot of resources available for the unhoused community. And so just naturally, a lot of individuals would end up congregating in that neighborhood, but then sticking around. And then you'd see gas stations kind of get, have impacts of that. And so in our neighborhood, we haven't seen that just yet. Maybe it's because I-45 runs right there. So, it's kind of hard to stick around if you got a busy highway running there. But also, I think what you see in our neighborhood is that there are a lot of different uses that provide people to be in our neighborhood at different times of day. If you're looking around 9 a.m., 8 a.m., you've got all kinds of people walking from West Dallas to downtown to go to work. You got a nightclub across the street, so you got folks there from 9 p.m. and on, right? And so you're able to have this diversity of uses that keeps people there all day long. And a lot of times that it's this idea of keeping eyes on the street. It helps kind of prevent what we're talking about here. Speaking of the streets, let's talk about those bricks. Oh, yeah. They are historic markers. They are something that is very unique that we have. They are the bricks that the freed slaves, the no longer enslaved individuals, Freedman's Town got its name, laid these streets. Became historic monument, I don't know which classification it has on it. They can't be moved, they can't be touched, and it has led to trouble with street infrastructure. You want to, once again, respect the past and what it stands for, but there's got to be modernization. What's the solution there? So this is what makes Rebirth in Action such a special project. To your point, we have not been able to repave or update drainage or do all the type of basic city maintenance that you need to do for the streets in Freedman's Town because of the bricks. And you want to celebrate them. And we want to celebrate them, and we want to preserve them, and we want to make them accessible for generations of Houstonians to come. And so the plan with Rebirth in Action is on top of building a new park and some community center amenities with the old shotgun homes from the 1800s that they're going to refurbish there in Freedman's Town, they're also going to build an open air kind of patio stage area where in the near term, they're going to fill with 30,000 of those original bricks while they go through and update the drainage and repave the street and all that stuff to then be able to put the bricks back in their exact locations. And then when that project is done, we'll have the brand new patio available for use. So it's a really exciting opportunity, but I have to say it took years and years of activists and church leaders and community members really emphasizing how important the bricks were. And then it took years of city government to learn, listen, and then to be able to actually implement it in an infrastructure project. So we're speaking with District C Councilman Joe Panzarella. If you'd like to join the conversation, give us a call at 713-440-8870.
Talking a little bit about this, with the bricks, as you mentioned, there is so much history there. How, and you've mentioned several people who are involved in these conversations that the preservation that goes into place to keep them intact. How do you, from a city council perspective, I think people look at city council and it's efficiency is what voters want. How do you then take a step back, pause, and say, okay, this is bigger than just city council. This is, obviously, if this was any other street, we would do these certain things. How do you balance that from the city office?
It is difficult, and I think what makes electeds good leaders is patience, is being patient and recognizing that it's more important to have diverse and unique voices be heard than to have a project be done real quick. And we see it a lot with TERS projects throughout the city. that a lot of times you get one shot to do this infrastructure project. Once you do it, it's in for 30 more years. And we said all throughout Houston, right? All kinds of projects that we haven't seen updated for decades. And it really puts the emphasis on, if we're going to do this once, let's do it right and make sure that everyone's heard, because we're not going to get another shot for a couple more years here.
To that point, I know you're new to City Council, and at the risk of asking you to say anything about your fellow council members, do you feel like that's successful? Do you feel like the council does a good job at balancing that?
About, being patient, listening, all that kind of stuff.
When necessary for something like this.
I think so. And, kudos to former council member Abby Kamen, now our county attorney. She was so well respected and so kind in Freedman's Town. People really sing her praises there because she knew how important the bricks were, and she knew how important the legacy of that community was. And she made sure to pass that on to me as a news council member. Each district in Houston is so unique and so diverse. And I really think when you look at my colleagues on city council, they were elected for a reason. It's because they know their district and their community so well.
Mm-hmm. When we look at just Freedman's Town, it's kind of a great little example of a lot of areas in Houston. And we are so quick to tear down, replace, build new, tear that down, rebuild, keep going. Can a city like Houston build a history and identity if you're constantly throwing away the past?
That is such a great question. And what I love about Freedman's Town is that a lot of times we have this discussion of, can we have new development and preserve the history? It's an if and or an if or kind of question, whereas I believe we can have both. Right now, the Fourth Ward TERS owns 27 empty lots in Freedman's Town. There is no need to tear down or to remove or destroy to actively build new things in Freedman's Town. The question is, though, how do we want to use those empty lots? Do we want more $1 million townhomes, or do we want mixed-use single-stair walk-ups where maybe you have a small cafe or a small market on the ground floor and then 3 or 4 stories of smaller 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom apartments? These are things that we don't really see a lot in Houston. And that's why when I say we should be building with intention, it's looking at all the different empty lots in Freedman's Town or throughout Houston and saying, what is the best possible use for this land? And then who do we need to bring into this conversation to make it happen?
Mm-hmm. If I can ask, this is a big question. And I certainly don't want to put the weight of history on your shoulders, council member. But, I feel like if you look at the grand scope of history, and I'm talking Houston history, American history, world history, we're not that great at preserving things sometimes. What do you see, even just 10 years down the road, the bricks, we take them off the street and they're put up in a museum. What's the likelihood that these are actually going to stay where they are now, as opposed to finding a new use for them, finding a better way to showcase them to the community? Does that make sense?
No, it's a great question. And I remember seeing a presentation from the Freedman's Town Conservancy a couple years back where they showed us the durability and the maintenance costs of newer 21st century concrete or these centuries-old bricks. And what they showed is that while the bricks do need maintenance, like any form of infrastructure, it's really only every 50 or 70, 80 years, as opposed to concrete streets, which you need to repave and redo every 30 years. And so the investment that we're doing in these bricks is not just for the preservation of history and culture and this amazing community in Freedman's Town, but it's actually a good financial decision. And once we do it right this time, those bricks can stick around for another 100 years.
Let's talk a little bit about gentrification. We're two white guys talking about Freedman's Town. We both live there, and we're talking about being a historically black neighborhood. How do we hold on to those roots, or should we not look at it that way as you develop as a major city?
I think it always goes back to uplifting the voices that continue to fight for these really important historical spaces. And that's why when I was running for city council, when I was reactivating the super neighborhood, it was never really about me. It was more so about amplifying the voices of the Freedman's Town Conservancy or the Freedman's Town Association or the different pastors in the neighborhood, and not forgetting all of the work that they have done for the past 60, 70, 80 years. It would not be possible to do Rebirth in Action, this project, or to celebrate 100 years of the African American Research Center if it wasn't for Sharonda Johnson and Pastor Elmo Johnson and Pastor Smith and, all the kind of amazing individuals that have really gone forward to allow us to maintain this neighborhood.
District C Councilmember Joe Panzarella, who represents Freedman Town and so many other parts of the community. Thank you so much for coming on to Hello Houston.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate y'all.
Absolutely. Coming up, a local sports tournament that's uplifting kids with disabilities. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Meet Damola, songwriter, world-class violinist, and award-winning multi-genre artist. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. Visit ridemetro.org/Damola to learn more about his ride.
In Morocco, it's illegal to have sex outside of marriage. She grew up associating sex with danger. Join us.
It's on tonight at 8 o'clock.
There are no doubt going to be new jobs that are created through this AI innovation, but we don't know what they look like yet. I don't know what to tell somebody to go and major in today, or even whether to go to college or not to go to college, right? Those calculations are changing in ways that we don't fully understand.
I'm Zolan Kano-Youngs. That's today on The Daily from the New York Times.
You can listen to The Daily tonight at 7 o'clock.
Uncertainty seems uncontrollable, but there are ways to navigate it.
By cultivating that self-trust and that trust in your future self, you don't have to prematurely suffer about something that might not actually come to be.
By building tolerance for uncertainty helps prepare us for life's pitfalls. That's next time on Think.
You can listen to Think tonight at 11 on News 88.7. This programming is made possible by Kevin Coolish and Beverly McPhail, supporting media that's free from commercial influence and grounded in journalistic integrity, because trust in news matters, now more than ever.
On the podcast After the Flood from the Texas Newsroom and PBS's Frontline, we meet people who survived last year's floods in the Hill Country and those who lost loved ones, and we try to answer the questions they still have. After the Flood, out now.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manouse and guest host Michael Adkison.
The Genuine Cup is an international soccer tournament that brings over 1,000 athletes with intellectual disabilities and autism together to play the world's most popular sport. Hosted at Rice Stadium, the tournament serves as a platform for inclusion and opportunity on a global stage, where 50 teams from 50 countries will all participate in a week of competition, connection, and community. The Genuine Cup begins today, and it will run through Saturday, August 1st. To tell us more about the tournament, we are joined by Ignacio Nacho Torres, the co-founder of the Genuine Cup. Welcome to Hello Houston.
Buenos dias. Good morning. Thank you for being here, for inviting us. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. First question. We're coming off the end of the World Cup.
We are?
We are.
Who won? Who won? España.
I can't say who won because I was pulling for Argentina.
Oh, come on. I'm from
Spain,
Barcelona.
Of course. Are you from Barcelona?
Okay. Barcelona.
Okay. Congratulations to you. What is having something like that, such a huge spectacle right in our own backyard, what does that mean for the Genuine Cup and the representation that you have here?
Thank you for the question. Huge. It is huge. As a matter of fact, the idea of the Genuine Cup was born precisely because of the World Cup. I'm a passionate soccer player. I still play soccer. I'm 62. I still play soccer. I'm from Barcelona, from Spain. And at the same time, we have a chemical company, and we lead the sustainability committee for the World Cup 2026. So with the Chris Canetti, John Arnold, we started discussing about, what is a great platform that the World Cup gives us to make cultural changes, like sustainability, huge opportunity. What are the things that we have? The fact that we have an ice cream shop here where we employ people with neurodiverse. What about if we try to do something similar, use a platform of the World Cup, the legacy of the World Cup, to elevate the visibility for the neurodiverse community? So the idea was started. And that's one of the things. Why 50 teams? Because FIFA had 48. And I tell you one thing, we don't have 50. We have 54 teams.
Wow.
54 teams from 53 different nations.
So you're bigger than FIFA.
Much bigger than FIFA, much bigger. And now we hear FIFA is talking about 66 teams for the next one. Okay, here we come with 70 next one.
There you go. I love it.
There is a world we live in today where everybody gets a ribbon. Everyone's encouraged. Can you put on a sporting event using this community and still uplift with still having competition?
That's a heck of a question. Okay, I will try to be quick and try to be precise. When you talk neurodiverse and we're bringing teams which we know nothing about them, we don't know if they have high skills, low skills, if they are composed with Down syndrome, with co-ed, female or males. We don't know if they are very high function or low support autistic people, which can play an amazing level of soccer. So we don't know precisely what level of soccer we're going to have. And so we decided that the first 6 matches are scrimmage matches to try to divide the 54 teams in 8 different groups. Okay? Every match is divided in 3 parts. It doesn't matter how many goals you score in each part. Every part is 1 goal. Okay? So you win 10-0, 10-0, 10-0, you won 3-0. Among other things, is because you have a big difference on the first matches and you're up already 3 or 4-0, take it easy. This is also about having fun. We want to have competition, but it's also about having fun. After the 6 matches, we are very confident we're going to be able to have 7 or 8 different levels of skills that we're going to be able to create 8 levels of totally different competitions. And then the World Cup starts. So we're going to have 8 different leagues. By the way, the leagues are not called 1, 2, 3 or best, second best, are called Texas Children League, Rice University League, Grunfeld Leagues, the main sponsor leagues, each one of those. So I think we're going to have, at the end of the day, we're going to have 8 leagues. By the way, a league is going to have about 8 teams. So we're going to say 7 leagues, 6 leagues with 8 teams and 1 league with 7 teams. And we're going to have a heck of a competition, different levels, but very competitive leagues.
Seems like a very smart way to go about that.
I don't know.
Very
Hopefully.
Yeah. How just out of curiosity, how long is this going to take for all these matches?
It goes quick. So because we're in Houston weather, so we promise everything except. And I trust me, the tournament. So these people are going to get really a FIFA world class star treats. Yeah. So we're playing every day. We're playing twice in the mornings. And then the finals are on Friday and Saturday. Friday and Saturday is where the finals starts. Yeah. And it's every match is 20. It's a 30 minutes match, so you kind of go quick, and they can play 2 matches per day. So it's a whole week. Yeah, it's a whole week.
Going off of that, I think that when we talk about the World Cup, there are Cinderella stories. There was Cabo Verde, the Democratic Republic of Congo. These stories that surprise you. Do you see those in the Genuine Cup? And if so, what are they that you're looking for this year?
I tell you what, you're right. In the World Cup, we had some Cinderella stories, and we have the Norwegians with the rowing things. And I don't want to say they were the exception, but in the Genuine Cup, they are the rule. You had to see this morning the dining room, the Argentinians singing together with the Ghana team using the bongo, and the Argentina team singing the same songs that they sung during the Messi. It is a non-stop, full of truly genuine, magical moments. If you see some of the Instagrams, if you come to the matches, it is non-stop, absolutely non-stop, the amount of great moments we have. Having said that, for example, we had last year, was very important. We have the penalty kick won by the Australian player. She was non-verbal the 2 years before when she joined the Australian team.
Wow.
Being part of the Australian team, being part of a football team, a community, made her so much more confidence, became verbal, and then she won the penalty shootout with the last penalty.
Wow.
It's full of emotional movement. But you have to come. There is not one bad second of great moments.
Yeah. To that point, if someone's hearing this right now and they're fascinated and say, I want to be a part of that, I got my World Cup high and now I have to keep it going. How can they come to the Genuine Cup and watch?
So every morning is going to be starting tomorrow from 8 to 1 p.m. We have matches going on. Then the afternoons we have reserved for different activities. Right now the whole 1,000 athletes are at NASA, so they're going to be cool. Hopefully we don't miss some of them going to the moon or something like that. Tomorrow, that's super cool. Tomorrow Montgomery County is hosting us for a rodeo. So they're going to be experiencing a rodeo experience and everything. Wednesday and Thursday, every consulate or business family here in Houston are hosting their team to honor the athletes that will represent their country. So the consulate of Spain, the consulate of Peru, the consulate of Argentina, super cool. And then on Friday, the big event for them, the Harlem Globetrotters are going to come and play for them. That's cool. Isn't that cool?
I remember seeing the Harlem Globetrotters when I was a kid. It was,
but what else? After Mickey Mouse is kind of the best thing for America. And they do all of this in these yellow buses, which, I don't know, maybe you're not used to, but for us, for foreigners, to ride on a yellow bus, going into a Rice University campus, it is one heck of an experience. If you want a really, real experience, come anytime. But Saturday afternoon, fill up that stadium. Those athletes, that show, that performance, the activity, we have candlelight performing for us. It's going to be really an event. Bring your family. It's a family event. It is going to be a fantastic, great event.
And unlike the World Cup, you can afford these tickets because they're free.
Yeah, 100% free. 100%
Isn't that
free.
great? So then is it all done by sponsorship? Is it consults? Is it sponsorship?
It is, we live in the most philanthropic, generous country in the world, and probably one of the best, maybe the best city in the world for that. It's amazing. Yeah. So everything is done by sponsors. So we have a lot of sponsors. We still need more. If you're listening to us,
you can always use more sponsorship.
You can use more. And then the Torres Foundation is pitching the balance. So we're trying to prove to FIFA and to the world that really it can be done with brands. Brands like to be attached with this. Mm-hmm. And we are getting a lot of money. And we had more time, we will probably get more. But at the end of the day, if any hole, we will cover any difference that is there. But we're doing very good financially.
So over 1,000 athletes, over 50 countries. 54, got to get the number 54. Right. How hard is this to coordinate?
I tell you what, no, it's I have a full-time job. Yeah. I'm running the largest privately held company in Houston with almost $17 billion in revenues. I have restaurants. We're opening schools now. I have a team of 23 people, all of them volunteers. No one then charges a single dollar. Average age, maybe 26. Uh-huh. And if you don't count me, it's like 24. It's super young people. I don't want to say it's easy, but it is a joy, it's a pleasure, and it's easier than what you think. When you give people a purpose, that's much, much more important that income. Of course, they need to get jobs. They need to, but it has been cool. I really wish we were talking, guys, we kind of pitch. But let me tell you one thing, and that's the amazing thing. We have a great tournament. We have the 1,000 players, but this is not our goal. Our goal is what happened yesterday. So past yesterday and yesterday, we have Genuine Connect. We did 1,000 people. Fantastic. You know how many IDD people we have in Houston? It's 45,000 to 60,000. Depends who you put in that. It's nothing. 1,000 people that we're helping 1,000 people life is nothing compared with humongous size of these populations. So on Saturday and Sunday, we have Genuine Connect. And in Genuine Connect, we try to bring ideas, concepts. How do we change the culture? And we had an amazing, and I get chills going because one of the biggest aspects, one of the biggest platforms for inclusion is employability. If you get a job, you get freedom, you get independent, you have a purpose on the morning, you have savings that you can retire tomorrow. But there is a prevention from people with IDD to work, which is what is called the Penalty Elimination Act. If you have more than $2,000 in savings, you lose Medicaid. For this population to lose Medicaid is impossible.
Sure.
Yesterday, and a subject that is not Republican or Democrat, as the announcer said, is about dignity. Ted Cruz came to our Genuine Connect and made a commitment that he will eliminate that 2,000 increase to 10,000. If he does that, and I trust me, this is not about, it's a bipartisan matter. We will create 1 million jobs. 1 million people will be able to get their jobs thanks to just simple elimination, which I'm using Ted Cruz's words. That $2,000 is stupid. It doesn't make absolutely any sense. Right. So thanks to soccer, thanks to the World Cup, thanks to Houston Legacy, we can elevate the platform. And like Ted said, thank you because you brought to our attention something we just didn't realize. And you know why the $2,000 is? It was established in 1989, and they forgot to put an adjuster. Isn't that stupid?
Wow.
Well, thanks to your work, we wouldn't be anywhere.
Thanks to a lot of other people. No, it's a lot of people behind
it. Thank you.
Yes. It's a powerful project and a powerful story. So thank you so much for coming on to the Hello Houston and talking with us.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Ignacio Nacho Torres is the co-founder of the Genuine Cup. And if you want to go to the Genuine Cup, it's free. And you should go to the Saturday final. As you heard, it runs through this Saturday at August 1st. You can get more information at genuinecup.org. Coming up, we are going to continue discussing today's top headlines, and we're also going to be talking about the politics behind soccer, if you like what you heard just now. So stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Alley Theater, now playing The Girl on the Train. Based on the best-selling novel, this psychological thriller continues through August 30th. Tickets at alleytheater.org.
Hey, don't forget that you can watch Hello Houston on HPM Plus, free to download for smart TVs. Hot today will get up to around 98. Currently, it's 91. This is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, a group of protesters gathered outside an ICE detention facility in Conroe, calling for the release of the men who witnessed the shooting that left Lorenzo Salgado Araujo dead. We'll discuss this and more as we continue diving into the top stories of the day. I'm Ernie Manouse.
And I'm HPM's Michael Adkison. Can the world's biggest soccer tournament still bring people together when politics, power, and global influence are part of the game? We'll explore with the Baker Institute's Christian Coates Ulrichsen.
Plus, what happens after they serve our country? Where do veterans turn when they need help? Mia Garcia heads a Houston-based network making sure they don't have to navigate that journey alone.
And we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump is headed to Michigan today for an event on the economy. The visit comes with fewer than 100 days left until the congressional midterm elections. NPR's Mara Eliason reports on where things stand for Democrats and Republicans.
To win a majority in the House of Representatives, Democrats need a net pickup of 3 seats. To win a majority in the Senate, Democrats need a net pickup of 4 seats. Republicans are facing strong headwinds. President Trump's approval rating is under 40%. Voters are sour on the economy, and they blame the Iran war and Trump's tariffs for keeping prices high at the pump and the grocery store. But Republicans have some structural advantages, too. They've raised much more money than Democrats. Democrats have the advantage of enthusiasm. Democratic voters have been turning out in larger numbers than Republicans in primaries and special elections this year. Mara Eliason, NPR News.
The U.S. military has paused airstrikes against Iran as both sides try to negotiate an end to nearly 5 months of hostilities. Suzanne Maloney, an Iran expert with Brookings Institution, a nonprofit think tank in Washington, D.C., responds to whether this pause in fighting might be able to accomplish what previous pauses could not.
The president and his administration here in Washington seem to have rightly decided that there was no military value to continuing additional airstrikes on Iran. The president had been threatening to strike civilian targets. That was likely to lead to an escalation, not just by Iran, but by the Houthis, who have sought to target traffic in the Red Sea, the Bab el-Mandeb, as well as Saudi oil infrastructure.
The 4 American service members most recently killed during renewed fighting between the U.S. and Iran are no longer listed as part of the Iran war death toll, according to the Associated Press. Their names, as well as dozens believed to be wounded during the conflict, have been shifted to a new category called Overseas Operations. It's been added to the Defense Casualty Analysis System's website. More than 1 million acres of mostly rangeland has now burned in Oregon. NPR's Kirk Sigler reports more than 24 fires are stretching resources and causing thousands of people to evacuate.
The wildfires have closed highways across central and eastern Oregon, including stretches of Interstate 84 that links Boise, Idaho to Portland, Oregon. Most are burning in remote federal rangeland and on private ranches and are causing major headaches for ranchers who are having to move cattle away from the flames with sometimes no warning. Oregon is coming off its driest and warmest winter on record with very little snowpack and now extremely dry fuels, including invasive grasses. The governor has declared states of emergency in multiple counties, and the state is now considered the top federal firefighting priority in the country. Kirk Sigler, NPR News, Boise.
You're listening to NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Shelby Rose. A Baytown police officer is being investigated for potential misuse of flock cameras. That is the automatic license plate reader network that are motion activated. The controversial cameras are also in Houston and around Harris County. Here's Baytown Police Chief John Stringer.
The executive staff of the Baytown Police Department and I recognize our community's concerns for the protection and respect of individual privacy, as well as for police accountability. If these allegations are sustained, then the employee involved will be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law and policy.
And Stringer says that this is an internal investigation, but he's also brought in the Harris County District Attorney to help. And starting this August, Katy ISD will ban AI chat tools in classrooms through 6th grade, also limiting its use for students in middle and high school. Here's Craig Davis, a Katy ISD parent, speaking to the school board. Davis argues education tech should not replace the learning of essential skills.
Students still need to write with their own hands. Students still need to read deeply, enough to build understanding. Students still need to solve problems before someone or something solves it for them.
And the move comes as Houston ISD has embraced AI. This year, the district will transform 9 schools into future 2 schools, which are focused on preparing for an AI world. And a months-long investigation turned into a major drug bust in Galveston County. The sheriff's department says officers served 5 search warrants at multiple locations on Friday, uncovering more than 11 pounds of methamphetamine, as well as fentanyl, cocaine, and marijuana. 22-year-old Moan Ford is facing multiple drug trafficking charges and is being held on a $2 million bond. Meanwhile, 2 former Astros were inducted into the Major League Hall of Fame over the weekend. Carlos Beltran and Jeff Kent became the 13th and 14th former player or manager with the Astros to get inducted. Both players played fewer than 300 games in Houston, playing a majority of their careers elsewhere. And despite a losing record, the Astros are just 2 games behind the AL West lead. They face division rival Los Angeles Angels tonight. I'm Shelby Rose, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Schwab, where investors have a range of choices to pursue investing goals, from self-directed investing to full-service wealth management, all in one place. More at schwab.com. This is NPR.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manouse.
And HPM's Michael Adkison in the guest host seat for the day. Hello.
Gotta say that.
Yeah, we gotta put respect where
yourself to the people.
I am here. No, it's been great being here, and that was a great last hour. That segment really uplifted me. I feel the Genuine Cup. It made me feel good. It was like yes.
Well, I'll say what really made the last hour, I think, really enjoyable is 2 people really passionate about the work they're doing.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, Joe Panzarella really does care about what he's doing in that community in Freedman Town and supporting it, and all of just the challenge between growth in a city and gentrification in a city and also preserving your heritage but moving forward. It's what his whole campaign was about. Now that he's in office, he's walking the walk and talking the talk. And then the Genuine Cup.
I sort of asked about this, but it's like, we're coming on the tails of the World Cup. Everyone loves soccer. Mayor Whitmire loves soccer. He announced at a press conference last week. He's like, I love soccer. It's like, we're all hyped up. We all loved it. And just to see something so genuine and so, we're going to talk a little bit more, not to preview this hour, but we're going to talk a little bit about the politics of soccer and the soft power that FIFA had and that we saw on display with the 2026 World Cup. Someone from the Baker Institute talking about that. To go from that to then, and here's this tournament of people with intellectual disabilities who this is like their moment, and they're here in Houston from the world's all over. There's just something so beautiful about that.
And to tie in with what you were just saying, the whole idea of what does having the World Cup mean moving forward? An event happens. And this is also a lot of when you plan like a society event or a fundraiser for a high-end thing. You think about that moment, but you think about what are the tentacles that come from it. What is the after story that happens? And so now that we've had the World Cup here, what's the impact it has now going forward? And the first thing we're looking at is this Genuine League, which is saying, okay, you're excited about soccer. Here's one more way to get excited and yet do good in the process.
Do good in the process and not be tied up in the bad. shall we say. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Leaving the baggage behind, but taking the mission and the idea of it forward. And it's soft diplomacy. We're going to be talking about a lot of that in this hour, but it was just really nice to have a living, breathing example of it. And just think about these 1,000 kids, how their lives are going to change from being here, from
Absolutely.
this experience. And all of us that get to witness it and the education that comes with. We are so quick to put people in categories of what they can and cannot do by stereotypes we have. And to have an exhibition of showing, look at what can be achieved and how limiting we are in our own minds of what we think when you see people out there doing so much more.
Yeah.
You know, I was inspired. I loved it. I will say another story we talked about today earlier in the headlines part, we talked about using AI in the classroom. So we put a poll out there. When should students start using AI in class? And we asked it of our YouTubers. Well, the results are in. We did have a tie at the top of the heap, and we had a tie at the bottom of the heap. We had 2 ties in this one. So when should students start using AI? Well, 13% said in high school and 13% said in elementary school. What does that leave? 37% came down on both middle school or AI should not be used in the classroom, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think that speaks to what you were getting at in the last hour as we talked about this of, at a certain point, these kids, and I think middle school is that sort of coming of age moment, I think, where it's like you see the world for what it is, and that's going to include artificial intelligence, and, you can either be with it or you can be left behind, essentially. And I think that is reflected. You either shouldn't use it as 37%, or you can use it in middle school, 37. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
See, it's funny. I would have said elementary school because I'm an old cow, and I would think, there's elementary and then there's junior high and high school. I always forget middle school because I really didn't, where we didn't have middle school concept. No, we went from elementary to junior high to high school.
What was junior high for you?
7th and 8th grade.
Okay, that's basically middle school.
Well, 6, 7, and 8, isn't it?
Yeah, one more year.
Well, here's a weird fact. So the school I went to school for, I went from kindergarten through 8th grade, all in the same building.
Wow.
We had it all there.
The concept of a 5-year-old walking into the same building as a 14-year-old is kind of fascinating.
Except we went in different entrances.
Oh, never mind then.
Yeah. But MacArthur School in Binghamton, New York, it was flooded out, totally destroyed, and they rebuilt it.
I thought you said McCarthy, and I was like, did you go to a school named after Joe McCarthy?
MacArthur. MacArthur Elementary. But it was Mr. MacArthur, kind of, because there was the MacArthur Mansion down the street, so he was some prominent gentleman.
Mr. MacArthur.
Mr. MacArthur, not just Billy MacArthur.
Of course.
Anyway, it's hard to imagine this conversation being meaningful without specific examples. What exactly is AI being used for? Eric writes us.
Yeah. And I think that speaks to the same questions of where does anyone fall on AI? It's I know Ernie, I'll put this delicately, Ernie likes to use it for invitations and Instagram posts, shall we say.
I do those pictures, yes.
And I feel like I see a lot of people who say, I'm good with the fact-finding, but the pictures is where I draw the line that takes the artistic integrity out of it.
Oh, I love it for the pictures. But I'll tell you a weird thing, and it's kind of cool and refreshing, is that when you do the AI on a photo and then you post it on Instagram, it'll flag it as AI has been used. But like I put up a picture the other day of myself and Wes Anderson from a fundraiser we were at last week or a week ago, and it flagged it as AI, but it was AI because I used AI to brighten the picture. We were on stage and everything had a purple hue to it, so I just asked AI to take out the purple hue. And then I was embarrassed because it was like, oh, did you just put yourself in a picture with director Wes Anderson? But no, it's just for the color adjustment. So I think there's got to be limits on that. You got to say, AI did not affect the content of this photo, just the presentation of it.
AI labels for thee and not for me.
Yeah. There you go. That's how I'd like it to be used. But I think they bring up a good point. If AI is being used to do your work for you, to present your finished product for you, I have issue with it. If AI is being used to, as I have often said, to sort out the complication of the world around us, to categorize things, to move them into columns that make it easier to work through, or I'll put together a schedule for the care workers that help my mom out, and I'll put it into AI to fix it from a hand-drawn thing, and it'll write a nice chart for me.
Yeah.
I don't see a problem in using it that way. It's
Sure.
a tool at our disposal. And I was around when calculators started coming into vogue. And it was like, well, do you use a calculator or not? Well,
Right.
It helps with the processing.
Right. And that's what I'll give a little peek behind the curtains as to the newsroom and how we approach AI. I think there's a general opposition to artificial intelligence. I have used it in my journalism only as a way to speed up the process of research. So the example that I usually cite is last fall, I think it was. There was a weekend where Governor Greg Abbott and California Governor Gavin Newsom had events in Houston the same weekend. Greg Abbott was on Friday and Gavin Newsom was on Saturday or something to that effect. And people saw that and were like, huh, like that's interesting. I wonder. And one of the things that was curious about is, had they ever interacted with each other before? Have they ever tweeted at each other, what have you? So I put into ChatGPT, have Greg Abbott and Gavin Newsom ever interacted with each other? Because I could go through their whole Twitter algorithm, the whole Twitter feed, but that would take me days. Whereas this was just a quick story that I wanted to turn out. So I put it in ChatGPT and it said, yes, here are a couple of times they tweeted at each other. And it was like, great. Okay, so they have interacted with each other.
Did you go with that, or did you go and then look it up to see if you
Oh,
could
of
find
course
any
I looked it up.
differences?
Of course,
that's where
of course
I'm
I
okay
then
with it.
clicked on the link and said, okay, yes, this is genuine. It's you use it. I think we use ChatGPT the way we use Wikipedia, that it's a great resource that's got stats and what have you, but you should do your own fact checking afterward.
Yeah. Well, one fact we want to check is that we got still a lot of topics in today's show to cover. We are going to be talking about FIFA, but we're also going to be talking about veterans. So more informative and uplifting content still to come, but we've got to get into the news of the day before we run out of time. Take us in.
Yeah, KHOU reports a group of protesters gathered Sunday outside of an ICE detention facility in Conroe. They were calling for the release of the 3 men who witnessed the July 7th shooting that left Lorenzo Salgado Araujo dead in Houston's East End. Those 3 men are Salgado Araujo's brother Victor, Jose Trinidad, and Daniel Tirado, and they're all 3 being held at the Montgomery ICE Processing Center. The demonstration came nearly 3 weeks after Salgado Araujo was shot and killed by an ICE agent during that encounter in the East End. We've reported on it extensively. At the same time, some new developments came in on Friday regarding the substance that was supposedly found in the van that was involved in the shooting. Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia says that substances that were being held in plastic baggies that the federal government said they suspected may have been hard drugs was in fact an electrolyte powder used to stay hydrated while working outdoors in the Texas heat. And that is echoing what Lorenzo Salgado Araujo's family has said from the start. What are your thoughts? These are new developments that came over in the last couple of days. I find the turn of events regarding the powder interesting. If this was something that you use or that you know of people using, give us a call, 713-440-8870. I thought that, again, that turn, I didn't articulate it well, but the allegation of hard drugs being used in this case, and it turned out to be electrolyte powder just to stay hydrated, I find fascinating. I have not heard of that being done before, but I know other people have, and so I find that really notable in this case.
In a previous life, I did a lot of cycling.
Yeah.
And we always had those little packets of the little powder, and you'd pour it into your bottled water because you were out in the sun for so long, and it would help. It was electrolyte powder.
It's probably a testament that I don't take care of myself better, that I don't know these. Like when I go for runs, I don't.
Well, I said in a previous life. I don't do it anymore. But I'm familiar with that kind of substance and that stuff being used. What my big problem with this whole story was, and I've said it on the air before, is that we are so quick to hear a story and move on that I guarantee you years from now, people are still going to say, oh, yeah, they found drugs in that van.
Yeah.
That's where the irresponsible reporting bothers me so. And the fact that those pictures were set out that showed those little packets and that was talked about angers me, because I know that was done to put that in people's minds, and we know how we function. So I am thrilled that we're covering this. I'm waiting for the full report to be out, which should be out today, they say, with what exactly the substance was. But it's irresponsible. And that's the problem with, here we go. I'm getting on a bigger issue. You can tell when I start wiggling in my chair. It's irresponsible of us in our profession to run with a story before it's had time to be vetted. The challenge is because official entities are releasing this information, and in a world where you can release it yourself through Twitter or X or on Facebook or Instagram, they are in charge of releasing information now at a much more rapid rate. And so then the media has to cover that they have released that, where in the past, the media investigated and then told you what we had found.
Sure.
Which, yes, there could be corruption there, but for the most part, it worked pretty well for many years. It upsets me that this now is part of that narrative. And I guarantee you it's going to stick with the story. And it shouldn't. And also, what are your thoughts? Am I just getting too worked up? 713-440-8870 on either of these. I'm curious your thoughts on your belief if the gentlemen that are being held should be released.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been covering this, so I think it would be irresponsible is maybe too strong of a word. I don't know that I should say my thoughts on this as I am actively covering this story. I think that there hasn't been enough talked about, I think, and I think we still want answers on what exactly was the goal of the operation that morning. Right. Congresswoman Garcia has raised the allegation that the person who was suspected was not Lorenzo Salgado Araujo, and that's also been reported by the New York Times and other outlets. Was the person in the car? Was this even I think that's the big question for me. Was this even the car that they were looking for, or did it just look like the car? Was it just a white van that had some Latino workers in there and they said, this may be it? What
I've heard, as my understanding of it, is what you are describing is that they saw a van and they figured, or they for some reason assumed that was the one they were looking for, and none of the people in there were who they were looking for. Mm-hmm. But then that brings up the question, if you investigate the wrong person but find in some ways the same crime, should they be held accountable?
Yeah.
And the argument is being made that they were undocumented, and therefore it doesn't matter if they were the focus of it. Now, I'm not talking about the shooting part of it. That's a whole other issue, and I'm not even trying to justify that. But if you are looking for undocumented people, and you mistake a group of people, but they turn out to be undocumented too, do you still have the right to retain them?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I guess that's where it lays. And I would say, not that I agree with the policy of it, but if that is the policy, then they're being held for what they did, theoretically.
Mm-hmm. For me, I find myself, I'm trying my best to do this without showing all my political cards. And my own personal beliefs. I find myself asking if the tables were turned and if it was Democrats doing, maybe you could make the argument that this is not a perfect argument, but the way that the Department of Justice under the Biden administration handled the January 6th protesters, that Republicans were so adamant that this was a witch hunt, that they were coming after us unjustly. How different is that from ICE agents arresting people in the streets? I know it's not a perfect argument. Are you seeing my logic here?
I'm trying.
What I'm trying to get at is all of which to say, if the way that we approached police in the streets, unmarked vehicles, wearing masks, but it was Democrats in charge, what would Republicans think? I'm sure they would be opposed. So why is it different now if Republicans are in charge? Does that make sense?
Yes.
You know
what I'm going to do? I'm going to say, Michael has given his point of view.
I tried.
He was working his way through it. We're curious what you think. 713-440-8870. Shannon from downtown is on the line. Shannon, what are your thoughts on this?
I just think the point needs to be just the more salient point, or what the focus needs to be on the fact that the Justice Department unsealed this record, which is unprecedented. Mm-hmm. Like, this is not normal at all. And the fact that the DOJ is, basically pro-ICE, this is the issue here, is that how the Department of Justice is being, it's being maligned, and it's turned into, kind of like this Gestapo.
Mm-hmm.
That they can unseal a record like that, and then that's not even really brought up that much. It's like we're all focusing on the drugs.
Right. Well, and Shannon, it seems in a lot of these situations, and I hate to say it, there are a lot of these situations, but there are a lot of, as we call them, red herrings are thrown in to move the conversation, change the focus, shift what you're talking about, and oftentimes they work, and we follow right along and talk about it. But thank you. Thank you for calling in and sharing with us. 713-440-8870. Jane from Richmond is on the line. Jane, what's on your mind?
Hello. Policing generally needs probable cause to stop somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And if you stop somebody for the incorrect reasons, you still don't have permission to follow through on whatever you're investigating. There was no probable cause to stop these people, and especially not to shoot one of them.
And just to take this to the extreme, and in no way am I comparing these stories, but if you are investigating a murder and you think you know who the suspect is, and you go and arrest someone, it wasn't the suspect, but in the course of arresting them, you find another dead body. Can you still arrest that person?
Well, if you find another dead body, you have, I viewed a different crime.
Okay.
That's apples and oranges, what you're talking about.
But if we're talking about this case, so they stopped this van looking for someone that they thought was undocumented. In that process, they found others who were undocumented. Doesn't that still hold?
Not the way I understand probable cause.
Okay, thank you. I don't know either, Jane. So hopefully we'll find some answers on that. All in all, the van should never have been stopped. These gentlemen were not who they were looking for. And most definitely, it should not have led to deadly force, from what we know.
And something I think that Shannon had pointed out that I think is particularly notable is something that we have heard before, which is that it is virtually unprecedented to unseal a search warrant so quickly. And that was, the argument would be that is done deliberately to get a message across. And if you follow that train of logic, then the message would have been that there were drugs in the car, is what the federal government believed, and that's why they executed the search warrant, essentially. So, all of which to say, the records that we're believing are going to be released today, that Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia has said will show that they were in fact not drugs, that they were an electrolyte powder of some sort. It's almost like a swing and a miss. It's like you better have all your boxes checked before you do something that's unprecedented like that, because now it has essentially tampered with what people think of this case and what people are going to believe happened that day, essentially.
A word without being political, and I don't think it is when I say this, I feel a sense of recklessness at the way all of this is handled. And that is problematic for me. And I know oftentimes in the moment, the heat of the moment, there is rush to do things, or after the fact to try and justify things. We have to take a pause and do things properly, and don't be reckless with it. 713-440-8870. Javier from the East End is on the line. Javier, what are you thinking?
Well, thinking is kind of difficult when someone's murdered in your neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
But the sentiment here has been fear, and it's something I've never seen. And I know during the World Cup, we had a whole different environment happening here in the East End, and all of a sudden we have a murder, and we're back to the situation of politics that has been me questioning, where's our money going in a federal standpoint, and why are we policing our streets? Like, it's Nazi Germany, It's a weird feeling. I mean, I am a citizen of the United States, but I know a lot of my fellow neighbors aren't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if their process was here getting legally or not, but the fact that we have to worry about people getting gunned down in our streets, and there's no proper investigation done, there is no information actually being told about what happened, like the day of. I mean, I just saw a lot of police by a meat market not knowing what's going on. The lies that have been covered, the lies that have been undisclosed, and I mean, like you guys just brought up the electrolyte situation, that's being told as a drug. And I mean, that's just basically telling me, they're looking at anybody here with anything in their car as possible substance or any reason to get pulled over or even killed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what can we do as citizens to really get this sort of policing out of here that is not warranted?
Javier, I'm just going to go on this from your first name. Have you been approached or had any interaction because your name is Javier?
No, I have not. I mean, I am college educated. I'm an educator. I mean, I dress differently than my typical neighbors do. I speak differently than my typical neighbors do. But I know there's a sense of fear here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I never see, man. And it's kind of weird because I guess when it happens close to home, it just changes the mindset.
Yeah.
What is happening in my wonderful country, you know?
Yeah. I've mentioned this story before on the air that one of my mom's caregivers, who was born in Texas and is Hispanic, has a Hispanic background, she worries about taking my mom out to like walk around Walmart and things like that because she's worried she may get approached or picked up or something, and she's worried what would happen to my mom, even though she's an American citizen. She was born and raised here, but that fear sits with her and it changes how she goes out in the community.
Yeah, and I get that because it's like, how am I going to react if I get accosted?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know my rights, I know my laws, but what if I say the wrong thing and it leads to violence? You know, not caused by me, but apparently some of these guys aren't being trained properly. Yeah. I mean, I have family members that have worked in immigration, and we are not talking right now because I'm not liking that people are getting killed. I never heard of this before until this current situation, these past few years. This is like totally new to me, and it's scary, man. Like, you know, like I don't want to live in a state of fear. I want to live in what I remember growing up in the United States thing, you know, and me walking in a block not fearing of being accosted. Just again, by my complexion, and probably because of maybe I'm wearing something that might attract some ICE agent. Maybe I'm in a van too, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's just nerve wracking, you know. Like I didn't think it was gonna hit this close to home until last week about that poor individual. But it does make you really think, like, what can we do as citizens to really say we don't want this, you know? I mean, besides, of course, vote. Besides, of course, have protest. What can we actually do to our state government? Because I know the state's kind of being okay with it. I know Whitmire's has his own course of action, but what can we actually do as citizens to really tell them this is unwanted here? We don't want these thugs in our streets.
Yeah, Javier, I believe you're from the East End neighborhood. I'm curious, and I know Ernie kind of alluded to this by talking about your own experience, but you know, I've been out in East End talking with a lot of folks in the aftermath of this shooting, and I've probably said this on the show even, that one sentiment that I've heard is so many people talk about this fear, the general fear of going out, being out in public essentially, and then when I ask everyone individually, are you afraid? They'll be, no, I have no fear. I am not afraid because I'm going to speak up for what I believe in. So I'm curious, Javier, are you individually fearful for the circumstances that this neighborhood is in? Where do you stand on that?
I'm not scared of me being approached. I'm scared of what might happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's me understanding the laws, me understanding my constitutional amendment will be violated as soon as I start getting questioned over a substance. I mean, me assuming it's an ICE agent pulling me over. I mean, a police officer pulling me over, different story, different situation. But when I have a federal agent pull me over just because they're assuming something, I'm afraid of how I might react. That could land me dead.
Yeah. Javier, I'm sorry for what you are going through in the situation. I'm sorry what we're all going through, and I appreciate your articulating it to us so we have a new way to look at it and think about it. Thank you for calling in and sharing with us today.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for what y'all do, guys.
Thank you. If you have thoughts and opinions on this matter, please, we continue to gather those up. You can call or text 713-440-8870.
Yep. Coming up, we will talk to a nonprofit helping military families and service members. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
You can hear it tonight at 10 o'clock.
The Trump administration got rid of 25,000 government jobs in the state of Maryland. So some Marylanders have taken matters and their collective income into their own hands.
We calculate the average. The people who make above the average send money to people who make below the average.
Whoa.
I'm Kai Rizdal, Universal Basic Income, the neighborhood club version. Next time on Marketplace.
Listen to Marketplace tonight. That starts at 6:30.
Houston Public Media, in partnership with Texas Southern University, brings to you The Vibe. R&B, hip-hop, and neo-soul. Music that resonates with all ages. The Vibe on 88.7 HD3 and on the Houston Public Media app.
Hi, I'm Manouse Zamarodi, and our world is changing so fast. On the TED Radio Hour, we invite innovators, researchers, and activists to unpack those changes with us.
Just about all companies are becoming technology companies or technology-enabled companies.
Listen to the TED Radio Hour from NPR every week for conversations that will deepen your understanding of our changing world.
The TED Radio Hour, Tuesdays at 9 p.m. on News 88.7.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV8, enjoy 2 episodes of Antiques Roadshow. From the Denver Botanic Gardens at 7 and the Maryland Zoo at 8. Then Iconic America looks at the American Bald Eagle at 9. Tonight on TV8.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manouse and guest host Michael Adkison.
Combined Arms is the country's most effective referral network for veterans and service members. Based in the Houston area, their network links the military community to over 300 organizations to post military care and food services, while their Texas Veterans Network brings together government agencies, nonprofits, and educational institutions to provide support to veterans and service members within 72 hours after a request is submitted. So to tell us more about all their work, we are joined by Mia Garcia, the Executive Director of the Texas Veterans Network at Combined Arms. Mia, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here.
There's wonderful things you do. We'll get into all of that. But the part that really sticks out to me is that you can act within 72 hours. Yes. And how important that is when somebody is hungry or in need.
In need, yes, absolutely. So we have a network of partners that respond to those needs. And so whether it be severe mental health, that they are struggling through themselves, or they do need food, we are there. They can connect by way of our technology, but they can also call our intake and be connected. And then we track all of this in real time so we can see what veterans really are needing and make sure that the network is geared to provide those services.
And not to point out or be rough on other organizations, you all too often hear about how the vet or the VA, you can wait and wait and wait, and the attention that you get is nowhere near. And I mean, we can probably argue that through all healthcare throughout our system, but to have an organization that's saying, "Hey, listen, you folks did for us, we've got to be here to do for you."
Absolutely, and you know what we found is not one organization can do it all. So we really have to work together to serve the veteran in a very holistic fashion. Because while they might come to us for food, what else do they need to help improve that situation? We can give them that immediate resource and ask, what else do you need? And many times they need to be connected to the VA, start that benefits claim, or maybe they need financial education. They could need mental health. So we serve them then and there as well in, a very holistic fashion.
Do you find if you refer them to the VA that things move a little more quickly? I often know my mom goes into the hospital. If I talk to some of the administrators, I know her process is going to move quicker. Do you give that kind of benefit, or is that too hard?
We do have a really great relationship with the DeBakey VA, and I want to give a shout out to the DeBakey VA. I think it's one of the best.
Yeah, I didn't, like I said, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to disparage them, but I'm saying these are concerns.
So we partner with the VA, so they come to our events to find those veterans. And I think that because they find those veterans and start that relationship with them in person, I do think they get expedited a little bit faster from what I've seen. But I also think that the thing to look at here is a lot of times they'd have no idea how to connect to the VA. It's big, scary VA. I don't even know where to start. Right. And so bringing them into the community with us, where we have more of that community-friendly face, and yes, our partners are here, the VA, I think that's very helpful in that initial starting point. And
I also want to say sometimes what we should realize that slowness of service is because there's so much need.
Oh, yes.
And we can't cover it all. And that's why partially it takes so much
100%. And that is one of the biggest issues that all VAs face.
Mm-hmm.
So I would also, add that the VA has certain things they can't do, right? And so they can refer back to us for whatever they can't do. So it works both ways, right? We're making referrals to the VA, but then the VA can also send veterans to us for things they cannot cover.
Right.
Working in Houston, what would you describe the veterans' circumstances in Houston, the average circumstances, I should say, or how does it compare to other major cities in terms of the needs that these veterans have?
Do they face unique challenges?
Yeah.
Sure. Every veteran is so different. And this is not about me at all. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I transitioned and I came back to U of H to finish my degree. But even in my transition, I came back home and lived with my parents for a little bit, and I got a proper footing. Nothing like Combined Arms existed back then, but it would have been so helpful to me to know what really exists. So, what the transitioning service member needs is very different from the older veteran that is on a very fixed income.
Mm-hmm.
So the network is geared to help all the veterans, but it's very broad. So here in Houston, we actually have a lot of veterans that are living under the poverty level. But then, we also have a lot of veterans that are moving to Houston and moving to Texas for jobs too, because the job market is so great. So I know it's not at our food distributions, we see a different type of veteran that we do at our Vet Connects, where we're helping veterans gain employment, right? So I would just say that there's a very large older population of veterans that are very high need. And they... our food distributions, we have 6 of them across the city, all the way from Galveston County to Montgomery County. We just launched one at Fort Bend County that y'all did a news article on. But that's where we find that older population, and they have multi-layer needs. And the first one being, let's get you connected to the VA care system because you have no health care, right?
Yeah.
If that answers your question.
I just want to remind folks that if you go over to our YouTube and in our chat right now, we've put up a poll. We'd love to know what you think. Do you think the U.S. does enough to support its veterans? That poll is currently active. Just go to YouTube and look for Hello Houston, or go to HoustonPublicMedia.org and you can click over there. But we'd love to know what you think, and we'll bring you those results in just a moment.
Kind of going off of that, when I'm sure you get people who come to you all the time and say, oh, I bet your job is so difficult, or I bet you have needs that people don't recognize. Mm-hmm. What do you usually tell them about your role and what you think people need to step up and help a little bit more with?
Right. So I think what also is really cool about Combined Arms is that there's so many nonprofits. There's like 43,000 nonprofits that say they help veterans. And what we've really done is kind of weed out the organizations that aren't really doing what they say they do, or they don't want to be part of this network of accountability and collaboration. I would say that, today there is a spirit of collaboration more so than, 10 years ago, where a lot of organizations were working in silos. No organizations were speaking to one another. And there was really a mindset of this is my veteran, and at the end of the day, these are Houston's veterans that we need to come together and serve. So I think whenever I get asked that question, I've learned so much along the way, and I do think there's so much progress that is happening. So when you ask that question, do the veterans get what they need? I think that we've come so far, but obviously there's still so much to do.
If I'm not mistaken, one of the cool things about your organization is that you track referral outcomes, so that you can see where these gaps and the problems lie, so you can better understand the emerging needs and how to service them.
Absolutely. And so going back to our food insecurity program, that's exactly why we even launched it. Because we don't want to launch something that's already existing, right? And that's something that we also do is stay away from duplicative efforts, right? Mm-hmm. But we saw a 400% increase in 2022 for veterans needing food assistance. And so we went to the Houston Food Bank and we said, hey, we have had this increase. What are y'all's thoughts on partnering with a veteran-specific food distribution? And lo and behold, they wanted to do that. And they had seen that need too, but they just didn't have the partner to do it. And so we launched it. And because it was so successful, Houston Food Bank thought it was a great partnership too, and that's why we've grown so much, because we've seen that need. But we also we are tracking those outcomes. We are holding the organizations accountable. So if an organization is getting close to that 72-hour mark, we're like traffic control inside the system. Like, okay, hey organization, you have Joe Smith waiting for this. What's the holdup? And we can get engaged if we need to, but more chances than not, they've already sent the communication. The veteran just hasn't closed that outcome. So all this to say is, like, we're really intentional about filling in gaps and not duplicating efforts with our community. We even convene our partners on a monthly basis that we're working together on events. We're working together on these food distributions, again, so that there's bigger events happening with more intentionality than sporadic ones that don't have a lot of action behind it and outcome.
In general, if you can even, how many veterans are you serving in this community?
Yes. Okay. So we launched the Texas Veterans Network in April of 2020. We're coming up on our 100,000th veteran served across the state. But in Houston is one of the biggest chunks, about 30,000. And what I can tell you is, like, at every food distribution, we have 6 across the city every month. And we're a very tiny team, too. I should say that. A very tiny team of veterans that have been through transition. And, we feel so blessed to be able to do this work and make it better for those that come behind us. But at every one of these food distributions, we're serving about 150 families. And it's not, so it's and I think that's important to know, too, it's families. Mm-hmm. It's, at the one we have at Ellington Field, these are junior service members that are on, one-income families that, they don't get paid that much. And so they really do need this resource, because if they get this, they can then pay their light bill. Yeah. And that situation is the same for the older population, too, that is just on, maybe on Social Security, and that's it, right?
It's sad when you talk about this, and then you think a lot of these veterans are going to other social services, mm-hmm. too. So when you give that number, that's not the sum total of those who need help in this community. And so I guess my concern, my point I look at is, why are we failing our veterans? Why are they needing this help and support?
Right. Yeah. And I don't have the answer for that. Yeah. I think that a lot of times for veterans, they don't know what they don't know. And if they don't show up and you only see them at the food distributions, then you could make the assumption that's all they've ever needed. But how did they get into that mm-hmm. situation, right? And that's what we don't know. That's what we're learning. And that's what we're trying to improve with every veteran that we interact with. I mean, we just had a food distribution on Friday, and I got to talk to 2 Vietnam veterans. And my goodness, do you know how wonderful those gentlemen are, first of all? One of them he got drafted for the NBA, a very tall gentleman. And he only got to play a handful of games because he got drafted for Vietnam.
Wow.
But I will just tell you, he was just so happy to be around other veterans, because a lot of times they're just not around veterans, right? But then also just know the community does care about them so much to make this happen. So it really warms my heart whenever we can obviously help Vietnam veterans, but then also be the face of for the transitioning population as well.
That's so powerful. And it's such great. I love the history and talking to veterans and hearing their stories.
Yes.
Not to sound morbid, but while they're still here, I feel like so often we let these stories just slip by and we mm-hmm. never ask people about them. And it's so valuable. So
yes.
Very powerful.
Mm-hmm. I'd have to do a plug-in for Texas Veterans Commission. They do have a program called Voices of Veterans where they do archive these stories.
Yeah,
I love it.
To do.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you.
Mia, thank you so much for coming on to Hello Houston today. Mia Garcia is the Executive Director of the Texas Veterans Network at Combined Arms. Thank you for coming on to Hello Houston.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up, we are going to talk with one of Houston's own about what happened this week at Comic-Con. So stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross-country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
I'm Indira Lakshmanan. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu travels to Washington, D.C. this week to attend Senator Lindsey Graham's funeral and to meet with President Trump. The war in Iran will top the agenda for the two men whose relationship has become strained in recent weeks. That's next time on Here and Now.
Coming up today at 1 o'clock.
When President Trump announced an anti-crime task force in Memphis last fall, federal and local officials never mentioned immigration enforcement as a goal. But the first few months shocked the community.
It was very evident that this was an immigration operation at its core.
Trump says he wants to replicate the Memphis task force elsewhere. I'm Elsa Chang. That's on All Things Considered from NPR News.
All Things Considered coming up today at 3 o'clock.
A strong Houston public media is an essential source for an informed, engaged, and connected community. We appreciate our Affinity Council leadership for helping to foster an environment that prioritizes respect, well-being, and growth for our audience of lifelong learners. Stephen Van Dalen, Gretchen and Jay Watkins, Sujeen White and Robert Connor, Ellen Yarrow. Thank you.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manouse and guest host Michael Adkison.
All right, if you've been following social media or pop culture in general, you know Comic-Con is a big place where news gets broken, stories get told, celebrities show up, and so does Sean Tajapur, who is from Nerdtropolis, and he has been at Comic-Con. Sean, where are you now?
I finally made it home. I made it back in one piece.
You did? Okay, gotta know, for you, what was the highlight of this year's Comic-Con?
Listen, the highlight for anybody is, first of all, making it into Hall H, the legendary Hall H, but also to be at Hall H for the Marvel Studios panel that ended Saturday evening. That was the place to be for everyone.
Yeah. So what was the big news out of there?
We had a lot of big news, so I'm going to go through them. That we had Ryan Gosling taking the stage to finally announce that his dream has come true to play the MCU's Ghost Rider. So the La La Land star is going to be our next Ghost Rider.
Well, that's exciting. It had been rumored for a while, but now that he has said it at Comic-Con, it is official.
It is official, and you have Sean Levy, who brought us Deadpool and Wolverine, to be the director, and Ryan and Sean are making a Star Wars film together that's coming out next year. But we have a Ghost Rider with these two coming in 2028.
Oh, cool. And then how about another Black Panther?
That is true. I actually had a feeling about this ever since I saw this guy in Alien Romulus and then seeing him in the Long Walk. But David Johnson will be taking on the mantle of the Black Panther with Black Panther 3. What brings back Ryan Coogler, who's going to shoot the film on actual film, large format. So we're going to get some awesome cinematic experience with returning to Wakanda.
Okay. What about Avengers? What's happening on Avengers fronts?
So a lot was happening there. We got a lot of cast members to come out. We got to see exclusive footage really showing us more of what's going on. The trailer that was released online for fans didn't show much, but we had Robert Downey Jr. there teasing his voice. We had a lot of excitement there with the cast and just seeing all that good stuff. I mean, they just hyped it up as much as possible. We saw some costumes on display as well at Comic-Con. And, yeah, it's just some really exciting stuff there to just tease us even further. Not too much giveaway, but, just expect.
Just tease.
Yeah, talking about them teasing those big moments, I think social media has started to buzz a little bit about Doomsday, as the new Avengers movie is going to come out on the same day as Dune Part 3. Did you get the sense that, I know, Barbenheimer Part 2, did you get the sense that people were whispering about, we'll see who comes out on top?
I mean, I think it'll be equal, but I mean, everyone's going to be just like, with Barbie and Oppenheimer, everyone's going to be in the theaters during the holidays watching two great films. And I forgot to mention the biggest thing that probably came out of Comic-Con is Ryan Reynolds was walking the floor in the Deadpool suit that no one knew about until the whole reveal at the Marvel panel with a little back and forth with the cast, hoping he was going to be in Doomsday, but that doesn't. Maybe that might not happen. But he was a big surprise there. Full-on Deadpool suit. No one knew it was him, but Ryan Reynolds wasn't attended.
So then I got to ask. He's wandering around in the suit. How do we know it was him? Doesn't he just show up at the very end, slide in, and take off his mask?
He never takes off his mask, but there is behind the footage, if you follow Ryan on socials, of him getting set up and walking around. There's a montage.
So it was really him just walking around the crowd.
It was him. I mean, a lot of celebrities do that at Comic-Con. If they want to enjoy what the craziness and funness of it, they'll come in an awesome cosplay. Ryan Reynolds obviously picked the legendary Deadpool to do it. That makes sense.
So treat those cosplayers with respect. You never know who they really could be under their masks or cowls.
Absolutely.
Talk to me a little bit. You're talking a lot about what Marvel was doing. What was DC up to?
DC, really quiet on the front, as in cinematic-wise, film-wise, but they got to show us lanterns. We got to see some great footage from the new Green Lantern show coming to HBO, and a lot of stuff on the comic book side and some of the other smaller sides. So it really is Marvel's year.
Well, I heard, though, there was some excitement about Clayface.
So, yeah, the trailer came out, so that they did some talk about Clayface, but, you know, that is just based off the Batman villain that we all kind of grew up loving. That's very cool. Backstory with that, and they just tease that. You know, we don't want to know much when it comes to some of this stuff. Clayface, but it is a Mike Flanagan written, rated R, horrific horror film, pretty much.
Wow.
Well, I guess we talk about these big picture studios, but what's really making a lot of the content we see now are streaming services. Any excitement coming out of Apple TV or Amazon or any of that?
Well, Apple TV gave us a look at Matchbox, the movie. You know Hot Wheels, but you know Matchbox. I have the Matchbox cars as kids. John Cena is leading a Matchbox, the movie, coming to Apple TV, straight to streaming. And it looked really exciting, a lot of action, and a fun way to bring Matchbox into the screens for everyone that kind of grew up with them in a different way. And we got a first look at Neuromancer based on the 80s book that kind of why the Matrix exists is because of Neuromancer. So Apple TV's doing that. We got Silo. And they gave us Widow's Bay. They gave us so much. Apple TV is killing it, I must say. But one thing we didn't talk about is, are we Spaceballs fans?
Oh, my God. How did I bury the lead there? I hear that Big Helmet was walking around.
Big Helmet.
We Rick Moranis in the flesh. That was amazing to see, just to experience that. And to see the footage and how much heart with Mel Brooks supporting this. This is going to be probably one of the biggest surprises when it comes out next year.
Yeah. I know I want to go back to that in a minute, but I don't want to miss, because I've missed the other two, Blade Runner 2099.
Yeah, that is something that's super, with Michelle Yeoh coming back. I love Blade Runner, so it's exciting that we're getting more into it. And Amazon's really killing it with that, giving us Lord of the Rings, Blade Runner, giving us these worlds that we kind of want to see as much as we can. So give us Amazon, give us as much as we can. Hopefully we also hear something from Bond from them in the near future, as Amazon's really giving us these big IP shows and films.
To that point, you know, you mentioned the James Bond, that was not talked about. Was there anything that you're like, nobody talked about this? Why didn't we get any more information about, you know, such and such TV show or such and such movie? Was there anything like that?
So for me, honestly, DC, going back to DC, that we didn't get much about Man of Tomorrow and really the future of where DC's going. And, you know, Batman is on hold because Matt Reeves' Batman Part 2 is also delayed, so they got pushed back. So I think that's what we're hoping for DC in the future really makes us shocking news, is who our next Batman's going to be and what the future of DC looks like cinematically.
Okay, I got a question for you. It has nothing to do with this unless they did say something at Comic-Con. I just watched Masters of the Universe, the new He-Man movie. Is there going to be a sequel, or did it just do too poorly at the box office?
Man, it sadly did so bad at the box office in a weird way, because I love that film. It's so great. Travis Knight, who directed that film and directed Bumblebee and gave us some great stuff, knows how to play with nostalgia. So, yeah, it's on streaming now on Prime Video. You can watch it. Watch it when you stream it, so the studios can see you actually do want to see a sequel. That's probably their way to gauge if they can move on with it, because I thought it was really well done, a lot of fun. My whole family enjoyed it, and a very underrated summer movie.
And they set it up really well for the sequel, but dollars talk. And you know who else talks? Sean Tajapur. Thank you for talking with us about what you saw at Comic-Con.
Appreciate it. Until next time, guys.
All right, come join us again soon. There was so much more we didn't even get to talk about.
I know.
You know what that music means?
What does it mean?
We're out of time.
Nuts.
Michael, thank you for joining me. Michael Adkison is from Houston Public Media, one of our quality reporters.
Wow. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
And always a pleasure to share time with you. Join us back here tomorrow. We got a lot more to share with you tomorrow on Hello Houston. I'm Ernie Manouse. Have a good day.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altai, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Houston Public Media is licensed to the University of Houston System, governed by the UH Board of Regents. Information about open meetings, dates, times,